Good evening once again. I'm Attorney Alfonso Roma. I'm your instructor in Criminal Law Book 1. For those who have not yet seen the first lecture that I made, the reason for this setup is that so you will have the access to the lectures at the time you want, at your available time, and you will have the opportunity to have, or if you do so, you have the opportunity to listen to the lectures that I made. Now, tonight we will be having short discussions on theories, theories in criminal law, and some other basic principles in criminal law. You might ask, anong kinahanglan pa ni nga kabalaan ng theory? Well, you might ask, find that the theory and principles in every field is studied and looked into because those theories and principles worked before, and so that you will have a basic good understanding in the field that you are studying. In this case, we are studying criminal law, so it's proper for us to look into the theories of criminal law and some other basic principles. I will not be flooding the information regarding the principles. There are too many principles in criminal law, but I will limit those who are those principles that are usually used in the field. So we'll start with the classical thought, the classical school of thought theory. Under the classical theory, the man is considered as a moral being. As a moral being, the man is a man or a person knows what is right and what is wrong, so that if that person will commit a crime, he knows the result, the good or bad, or mostly the bad result of his action. The under the school of thought, the classical school of thought theory, man is a moral person and he knows the good or evil, and that if he commits a crime, more emphasis on the results of his crime. So the greater the result or the gravity, the punishment will be harsh as well. Now, under the positivist school of thought or the positivist theory, a man is sometimes subjected to phenomenon or condition that he himself cannot control. He was being subjected to a condition or phenomenon that he himself cannot control, and that is why he committed the crime. That is not a justification for commission of the crime, but in that theory, the penalty is compassionate to the actor, or the law itself is compassionate to the result or to the person. The last theory under criminal law is the mix theory. Yeah, basically it mixed between the criminal no the positivist theory and the classical school of thought theory. What is mean by that is that if the crime in itself is a result of social or economic or natural phenomena, the law is compassionate. The law will provide a lesser penalty for that, and for that consideration. And if the crime is heinous crime, the law uses classical school of thought. So the punishment will be will be heavy, or will be harsh as well for the heinous crime. So in mixed school of thought theory, it mix between classical and positivist. In our revised penal code, we follow the revised penal code and other special penal laws. The source of penal laws are the revised penal code and the special penal laws. In our revised penal code, we usually use classical school of thought theory, and that is that the man knows between good and evil, and he will answer for what he has committed. Now we'll continue on Pro Leo doctrine. It can be found in your modules. Pro Leo simply states that the law admits different interpretations, and one interpretation favors the accused and the other is not. So we use the interpretation that is favorable to the accused. There is also a principle in criminal law that states that nolum crimen nola pena sine lege. That's nolum crimen nola pena sine nola pena sine lege. Basically, it means that there's no crime and there's no law punishing it. So, however, in distasteful the act is to the public, if there is no law, then that act is not punishable. That's the basic principle in criminal law. No law, there's no crime committed. When there's no law, provides no law that provides penalty for the act. In common law countries, it's a trivia. In common law countries, there is a so-called an act which is judged by a basic principles of morality. There's no law in common law countries. There is no written law. The act is judged by the tradition or by the morality of it, or any other parameters that the act in itself will be judged upon. There's no law in common law countries, or there is no written law. There is a there is there is a widely accepted principles like the crime of rape or murder. That's widely accepted principles of wrong committed, and there's widely principles on penalties. So it's hard to track down the act if there's no law punishing it. In Philippines, in our country here, there should be a law so that any act that penalized does not penalized by any law, then there's no crime. Another basic principles in criminal law is actus non facit reum nisi menset rea. That's mens rea. That means that literally means that the act done by me against my will is not my act. So what does it mean? There is no criminal intent. There's no criminal intent to commit a crime. So if there's no criminal intent to commit a crime, there is no crime itself. What is the implication of that? If your 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 mind is not criminal, then you cannot be, you cannot commit a crime. What is meant by that? Say for example, in cases of accident, in pure accident, there is no criminal thought, or there is no criminal mind behind it. So in pure accident, the person involved in the accident should not be penalized basically, because there's no criminal intent, there's no criminal mind behind the act. Another example is a person who shoot another because a person that shoots another because he was compelled by by fear. Maybe he was a gun was pointed in his head, and he was forced to shoot another person. So the act of shooting another, he reduced himself to be a tool. There's no criminal mind behind shooting another, except the fear that drives him to commit the act. That is one of the example of nolum mens rea. That's criminal intent, basically. Now we go to the construction of criminal law. Construction means interpretation of law. In this case, interpretation of criminal law. Criminal law is construed in favor of the accused, of course, as always, and any doubt should be resolved in favor of the accused. So that's why in every crime defined by law, it should be clear from any doubt or ambiguity, so that the provisions is clear and can be applied to acts committed. If there is a provisions in the law that is vague or doubtful, then the result will be that the interpretation will be in favor of the offender or the accused. Okay, we'll proceed to now to mala in si and mala prohibita. I will just comment on the terms that I have uh, discussed here, so you can also see these principles in your modules. Mala in si is that the act itself is evil in itself and should be punished regardless of the actor of the or the consequences. Mala prohibita is that there is a law punishing the act regardless of its morality, or regardless of its intention or intention of the actor. It is wrong because the law states so. So it doesn't matter whether or not uh, the the act is evil in itself or not. The law itself provides that the act should be punished by law. That's mala prohibita. Mala in se is the act is evil in itself and should be punished. I think that would be all in the principles of criminal law that I should be telling you about. We will continue on Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code next time. Again, comment your name and sections, and we will continue on Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code on the next lecture or recorded lecture. Good evening.